If you scroll through any sort of short form content, whether it be TikTok, YouTube Shorts, or God forbid Instagram Reels, there's a good chance you've seen a couple edits on them featuring like creators or athletes or whatever, and there's also a chance that you've seen some of the music accompanying those edits, and it sounds like... Now, if you heard that and thought, what in the world was that? That was the worst collection of sound to ever hit my eardrums. Well, you're not alone. That was funk, or what people like to call funk. It has a lot of fans and millions of haters. It is one of the most divisive music genres to come out in the last 5 years. A lot of people say that it's noise, and it's also probably the worst thing to ever happen. But it didn't used to always be like this. So what happened? Let's find out. Let's shift our focus to southern United States, specifically in places like Houston, Texas, and Memphis, Tennessee. Oh, also forgot about Atlanta. The South was crafting its own unique sound in hip-hop with trap and similar subgenres. This includes pioneers like DJ Spanish Fly, 3-6 Mafia, Tommy Wright III, Project Pat, and a whole lot of other people that I'm not even gonna mention because there's too many. I'm not gonna focus on trap today. I mainly want to focus on one of the subgenres that was influenced by trap. It was a little genre called funk. This genre was heavily inspired by Memphis rap, trap, and even included elements of DJ Screw's chopped and screwed technique. It's the technique where you slow and pitch down a sample, along with skipping beats and record scratching. You can hear this sound like all the time nowadays, even on TikTok with all the slow versions. There's too many slow versions nowadays, Jesus. The genre then got fully put together by people like Lil Ugly Mane, Denzel Curry, and probably the most important of all, Space Ghost Perp. He put the genre's name in a lot of the titles. With his signature lo-fi sound and Memphis-influenced delivery, this sound blew up all over SoundCloud under the hashtag funk. It became one of the most recognizable and listened to genres in SoundCloud. Space Ghost Perp also said that funk was basically just another way of saying funk. This is gonna come in handy later. The type of Memphis-inspired funk was really dominating through the mid-2010s and a bit of the late 2010s, but there was something going on in the background. So, past the late 2010s, somehow, funk got into the hands of the car drifting community online, and there was a new subgenre brewing. The new genre was called drift funk. It came out and sounded completely different from Memphis Phonk at the time. It was a genre invented by online car drifting communities in Russia. There was still influence from the Memphis Phonk sound at the time, specifically about the distorted samples and the lo-fi sound, but what made it distinct was its loud bass and the fall on the floor pattern compared to the trap beat that you would normally see in Memphis trap. By the way, to explain what 4 on the floor is, basically it's when the bass drum hits on every quarter beat, so basically it's gonna sound like... You know, that sort of sound. And trap beats usually have like very complex hi-hats. And it's also often halftime. You can kind of hear it like this. So yeah, just a quick little explanation for you guys. And I forgot to mention the most distinct of all, the Roland TR-88 cowbell. If you don't know, there used to be a drum machine and it had a cowbell sound. A lot of drift funk really likes to use that cowbell sound. I'll play it for you if you haven't heard it before. You've probably heard it in like thousands of songs, to be honest. It's everywhere. So examples of drift funk sounds include songs like Murder in My Mind by Chord Hell and Metamorphosis by Interworld. If you're on this video, you have definitely heard these songs. You cannot escape it. Now this is all fine and dandy. It was just taking a sound and reinventing it into something different, you know? However, there was a problem. Around this time, Spotify released a playlist, a funk playlist. However, this playlist only had drift funk sounds. It didn't have any Memphis related songs in sight. And to be honest, I think that this was the first warning sign that drift funk was eventually going to take over the popularity of the original funk sound. Yeah, a lot of the fans of the original sound were a bit worried that it was gonna be overshadowed by this genre. But there was nothing to worry, right? Especially, it's just drift funk, there's nothing else, right? For the sake of the video, we're gonna detour all the way to Brazil. Bro, this video is taking us on like a world tour for some reason. We're gonna have to go to Brazil to talk about a genre called funk carioca, or as it's likely known by English speakers as Brazilian funk. Okay, you're gonna have to bear with me here, cause I never grew up with Brazilian funk at all. So this is just gonna be all my research. Brazilian funk is a genre that has a lot of influence from like Miami bass, samba, and like Afro beats. And you can often tell that it's Brazilian funk from the tu-ta-ta drum beat. Oh, and there's also some Brazilian rapping and singing vocal samples with prominent melodies on top as well. Okay, I'm not actually too sure what happened here, but at some point, somebody decided that they saw Brazilian funk and decided to call it Brazilian funk. This led to people basically associating the entire genre of funk to Brazilian funk, even though they had nothing alike. Oh, I also forgot to mention that Brazilian funk is also not the same as Brazilian funk. Newer types sound a lot more different. It's a lot more electronic, I've noticed. And the newer ones are also associated with like animes and edits and stuff. This is most likely the funk that you don't like, I'm gonna be honest. And Brazilian funk basically went off online. There was a lot of edits with troll faces and stuff. Drift funk also had this sort of thing, but Brazilian funk had it like tenfold. It was pretty chill at the time. I don't think anyone really got that pissed at it. Oh wait, and then this happened. I don't really think that one song could be the downfall of entire genre, but it really heavily aided in it. Mangoes was a Brazilian funk song released by LDRR in May 2024, including a very prominent sample of YouTuber Alfredo Lauren talking about fucking mangoes and tajin. I'm not even gonna attempt to be unbiased here. This song is genuinely one of the worst Brazilian funk or funk songs I've ever heard. It includes an absolutely nonsensical sample of Lauren just saying mangoes, mangoes, mangoes over and over with a freaking vocal filter that sounds weird as fuck. In the song, the kick doesn't sound like a kick as much as it sounds like a wet goddamn fart. Chorus melody comes in, barely sounds like a melody. The whole song is mixed terribly. Goddamn, that rhymes. And I think he's trying to achieve that lo-fi sound, but somehow everything is too loud and too soft at the same time. And the kick just completely overpowers anything. And it sounds terrible. I cannot really understate how bad this kick sounds. It doesn't even matter what the rest of this song sounds like when you have a kick that sounds the way that this does. So songs like this basically set the expectation for the entire genre and led to the stereotype that all Brazilian funk songs, and by extension all funk songs, were just noise. So that brings us to now. So how do I feel about this whole thing? Okay, obviously I really like that old Memphis Phonk sound. I really liked it a lot. Like when I was a child back in like what, 2017, 2018, I had like unlimited internet access basically. And as a kid who really liked music and going online, I went online for my music. So at the time, I also got to see quite a bit of that funk sound. Sorry, sound, not sound. Yeah, and obviously I enjoyed that, but I also really enjoyed that drift funk sound back in 2020. I even like made some of them, like I even made some of my own. Yeah, and I just enjoyed drift funk as its own thing, you know? And I don't know if I can really say the same for Brazilian funk. However, I don't really want to count it out, because, okay, I have an opinion that like every single genre can be great in the right hands. It's the same thing whenever people talk about like certain genres and they're like, oh, all of this sucks. Oh my goodness, why are they playing only any of this? You should play more of this or whatever, like whether it's rap, country, rock, whatever. And I'm gonna be honest, this kind of reminds me of another genre. This kind of reminds me of dubstep. You guys remember dubstep, right? Yeah, when I said dubstep, you probably thought, oh, so that type of shit. I'm mainly remembering like the old one, like the 90s, 2000s one, the UK one. You know, it was like very cutting edge. It had like different bass technologies. It had a couple dub sounds like wong wong wong, all that type of shit. And then afterwards, people said it got like completely gentrified and shit. And then Skrillex came in and it turned the entire scene and culture into a meme genre that was extremely loud, used in edits, made the genre seem like one big joke. This feels kind of familiar, but yeah, just like dubstep, I believe that modern funk, once all the hype dies down, I think there'll be more artistry and less trend hopping like the original dubstep phase. And even in the modern day, we look back on Skrillex as a really good producer. Like, he's really good. And even the old stuff that people were like, oh, this shit sucks, oh, it ruined dubstep and shit. Like Scary Monsters, Nice Sprites and shit, you know all that? Like, people look back on that now and are like, yeah, this is great. And I feel like modern day funk producers, like, I don't know, like Atlas, Nakama, or maybe even LDRR, they'll probably make better music in the future. They might be even making music now that people will look back on and see as a classic. And who knows, maybe when we're older, we'll look back on the songs that were made now and think, man, these were actually pretty good. Except for Mangoes, I pray I never have to hear that song again.